welcome to this new lecture of C++. In this lecture, we are going to discuss and cover the pointer to a function. So in C++, we have a number of functions starting from the main function and some built-in functions and the user-defined functions. Each function in the C++ have set of instructions, and these set of instructions while performing some specific tasks or subtasks are known as function. Okay, so let's see an example. How can we declare a pointer to a function? But before that declaration of a pointer to a function, we need to discuss some basic concepts of the instructions of program in the C++, which actually represents in the memory. So we already know and have discussed that functions may have a set of instructions, and these set of instructions are from high-level languages. So these instructions are translated into the machine language in the 0-1 form. Okay, so these machine language or instructions are represented in the memory locations. Okay, and each memory location, we can say that each instruction of our program has some address in the memory. So in this way, we can access to each instruction by accessing the address of the location of the memory. So we already know that our C++ program executes in a sequential form. So if there are instructions, so processor will execute each and every statement or instruction in the memory sequentially, unless and until there is a go to statement or a call statement to another location. For example, if there is a call function in the main function, okay, a call to a user-defined function in a main function, so it means that there will be some instructions in the main function which will not be executing yet, okay, and we are jumping the execution from location 102 to location 105. And that user-defined function which we are calling now is reside actually on address 105 and 106 and 107. Let me correct it. This is 106 and 107. Now, this is known as the entry point of the function, the user-defined function. So it means that these instructions or the set of instruction is a user-defined function where the starting address is the entry point of calling from the main function. So this address, this starting address of the starting instruction is the entry point or address of the function. So just like the addresses of other variables that you have declared in your program in the main function or user-defined function, we have addresses, So similarly, we have addresses for all functions that you have defined or the built-in functions that you are using in your program. Okay. Now, so this is the entry point of the user-defined function. So through accessing this address, just like we have accessed the address of variables and then we have saved that address into pointers, so we can access this address and save this address of the function, this entry point of a function, into a pointer. So this is the basic concepts. How can we get the address of the entry point or of the user-defined function from the memory location and save it in a pointer, and then we will use the pointer to access this function, the user-defined function. So let's see how can we declare the user-defined pointer to a function, or we can also say the function pointer to this concept. Okay. This is now the syntax of how can we declare a pointer to user-defined function. So here you can see you need to write out the return type. Then you need to introduce the parentheses, the opening and closing parentheses, and then declare a pointer, just like a pointer that we have declared or we declare for the other variables, asterisk and with a variable name, okay, identifier. So that should be declared in the parenthesis. Okay, and then we need in the neighbor the other two parentheses, the opening and the curly parentheses, and that in those parentheses we need to enclose the parameter list. Okay, the list of parameters. So these parameters actually define, the type of, okay, not only these parameter lists, but the parameter list and the return type actually, define or instruct the compiler or the processor that there is a function which has a very similar signature with the same return type and the same number of parameter list and type of parameter list. Okay, and this is actually the user defined pointer to this type of function that you have declared or defined in your program. Okay, and this should be enclosed with the terminate with the terminator, the semicolon. Okay, so the one of the mistake that normally our beginners or the students perform is they don't include the parentheses while they declare the pointer. Okay, and they also write down the name of the function, which is not required actually. So let's see how that error actually represents. By they write the return type, then they introduce the pointer, and then they introduce the name of the function, and then the parameter list enclosed in the parentheses. So this is not similar. This syntax is not similar to the syntax of the pointer to a function. This syntax actually represents that there is a user-defined function with the name this, okay, with this name and with these parameters, while returning a value, but that value is actually of pointer type. So it means that this function is going to return a pointer value. Okay. Okay, so let's see how can we introduce this syntax of the pointer to a function in our programming. You can see here we have an example of add function which actually accept two parameters of integer type, integer a and integer b, and returning a value of integer type. Okay, so we are adding, this is the body, here you can see the opening curly brace and the closing curly brace. It represents the body of the function. So we have defined this function including its body. Okay, so this function actually accept two parameters, add those parameters or arguments or the value of these parameters a plus b, and then return the addition, the summation, through using the return statement through this gateway. Okay, so whenever we call this function in any other function, or we can call this in a main function, so this function will accept two arguments and it will return the summation of those two arguments. Okay, now you can see we have defined the main function. In the main function we have introduced the syntax of the pointer to a function. So this is a generic pointer which actually points to a function which return integer and which accepts two data types or two parameters of integer types. Okay, so irrespective of the name of the function that we have introduced in the user defined function. Okay, this is a very generic pointer, and this pointer is named with pf. And because we want to introduce a pointer, so therefore we need to write down the asterisk in the prefix of the identifier. Okay, so now this is a pointer, and these curly braces should be enclosed. Okay, should be introduced, and this pointer should be enclosed in the parentheses. Okay, so that it may be differentiate from the syntax of the function which return the pointer. Okay. So we are not returning any pointer. Actually, we are defining a pointer, or we are declaring a pointer which points to a function. So this pointer will actually point to a function which accepts two arguments of type integer and return of type integer. Okay, so you can assign the address of all those functions one by one, okay, to this pointer which has this type of signature or header of user defined function. Okay, now question is, how can we assign the address of this function, the user defined function? So you can see the syntax of the pointer is very similar to the syntax of the user defined function add. This add function also accepts two arguments and return an integer type. These are the two integer type parameter, and the return type is also integer. So we can assign the address of add function to the pf pointer. Okay, now you can see we have written the name of the pf, the pointer. Okay, pf is assigned with a value with address of a function, this add function. Okay, so add function is here, and there is no need to write down the the parameter list or the return type while you are assigning the address of a function into a pointer. Okay, so how can we get the address of a function? Normally we use the ampersand sign, the and sign, and the prefix of any variable to get the address of the variable, and then we assign that address into the pointer. So similarly, you can also write the ampersand sign in the prefix of a function name, only the name of a function. Okay, so this will fetch the address of the add function, and through assignment operator we are going to assign the value, the address, into the pointer. Okay, you are also allowed to write down pf is equal to add. So you have also an option to write down the name of the function, and do not write the ampersand sign in the prefix of the add function. Okay, the name of the function, and then assign the address of the function into the pf. So you have two options. One is this one, with ampersand sign, and second is without ampersand sign. So both are legal and you can use it, okay, in your C++ language. Okay, so the question is, how can we now use this pointer, this pf pointer, to call this add function? Okay, so here in the third statement, in the main function, you can see we have declared an integer type of a variable sum. Okay, and assignment operator. So it means that there will be some value which will be coming from some calculation or processing part, and that value will be saving in the sum variable. Okay, here you can see we have call the function add function through pointer pf. Now pf is actually pointer. And then you can just introduce the concept of the function, like the parentheses, and then passing the parameters, the two parameters of integer type. Okay, so this pointer is actually calling the add function in the memory. Okay, in this way these two arguments will be passed into the function, and this function will add these two arguments. 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, and this 4 will be returned to this gateway. Okay, and 4 will be assigned to the sum. Okay, so here you can see there is another syntax of calling a function through pointer is using the dereference operator with the pointer variable. Here you can see we have used the dereference operator with the pointer name, and then enclose in the brackets, and then you have used the syntax of a function calling with passing two arguments of type integer. So both statements are, both the syntax are legal and you can use it in your programming. So it's a very simple syntax. So I would prefer to use this syntax while calling the function. So it look like you are calling a function, while it look like there is a pre-processing of a pointer variable with a dereference operator, and then you are passing the. So it look like a complex version of calling a function using pointer, and this is a simple version of calling a function using pointer. Okay, so the value is coming to, in return value is coming to the sum variable, and some, then you can use that sum variable, for your desired processing part. And here we are printing the value of sum actually using cout statement. So this is how we can assign, the address of a function into a pointer, and then through using a pointer we can access the function and call actually a function, a user-defined function. So if you have any question regarding the user-defined function while we access that function using a pointer and pointer declaration, so you may ask the question in the comments below, and inshallah I will try my best to answer those questions. Thank you very much for watching this lecture.